She was sitting on cold concrete with her son asleep in her arms when the phone buzzed. She'd texted the wrong number. They threw us out, and the reply came instantly. I'm on my way. She didn't know his name, but the men who'd been hunting her did. If this story pulled you in, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss what's coming next. I've got another unforgettable story dropping tomorrow, and while you're here, jump into the comments and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing our community from all around the world. All right, let's get back into it. Anna's fingers trembled as she stared at her phone screen, the cold pavement seeping through her jeans. David's weight pressed against her side, warm, trusting, asleep. She scrolled through her contacts, vision blurring from exhaustion and the dull ache in her ribs. The number was still there. Someone she'd met months ago at the diner. Someone who'd left a card, said to call if she ever needed anything. She pressed send before she could second-guess herself. The message was simple. They threw us out. She set the phone down on the concrete beside her, wrapping both arms around David. The night air bit at her exposed skin. Her breath came in shallow gasps, each one sending a spike of pain through her bruised torso. Around them, the corridor stretched into darkness, fluorescent lights flickering overhead, metal storage units lining the walls like silent witnesses. The phone buzzed. Anna grabbed it, hands shaking. I'm on my way. She stared at the words. 4 words, no questions, no hesitation. Her throat tightened. She didn't even remember his name, just his face across the counter weeks ago, his quiet voice, the way he'd left cash that covered the bill twice over, the way the other staff had gone silent when he walked in. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She should explain, should tell him it was a mistake, that she'd meant to text someone else, but she didn't. The phone stayed quiet in her palm. Anna pulled David closer, feeling the steady rhythm of his breathing. She thought about the faces from the alley behind the diner, the whispered words. You should have apologized. She thought about the landlord's expression when he'd set their bags outside the door 2 hours ago. Not cruel, just empty, just done. Anna's phone lit up again. Which building? The question was direct, calm, like he was confirming an address for a delivery, not responding to a stranger's desperate text in the middle of the night. Anna typed the address with numb fingers. She pressed send, then immediately regretted it. Wait, she typed. I don't even know who you are. I think I texted the wrong. I know who you are, Anna. Her breath caught. Stay where you are. Don't talk to anyone. She wanted to ask how he knew her name, wanted to demand answers. But David stirred against her shoulder, and Anna's hand instinctively went to his hair, smoothing it back. His face was pale in the dim light, dark circles under his closed eyes. He'd stopped asking questions an hour ago, just held onto her jacket and stayed quiet. The bruises on her arm caught the light from overhead, purple and yellow, days old. Her ribs ached worse. She thought about calling someone official, someone safe. But who? The police? Who'd need reports and proof in time she didn't have? Who'd ask why she hadn't come forward after the first time, after the alley, after the diner? A shelter, where David would see her as someone who'd failed to protect them both, where they'd be separated into different rooms, where morning would come and they'd still have nowhere to go. Her fingers hovered over the screen one more time. Did you call anyone else? Anna stared at the question. She could feel the weight of it, the way it didn't ask should she have just did she. No, she typed back. I was scared. The 3 dots appeared immediately, then vanished. Then, good. Anna's chest tightened. That single word carried something she couldn't name. Not comfort, not threat, something in between. Something that made her feel seen in a way that terrified and steadied her at once. She looked down at David. His hand clutched the fabric of her jacket, even in sleep. 7 years old. He should be in bed right now, in their apartment, safe, not sitting in a storage corridor in the middle of January with everything they owned stuffed into 2 duffel bags. The landlord's voice echoed in her memory. You bring trouble, Anna. I can't have that here. She'd tried to explain, tried to tell him she was the victim, not the cause, but he'd already made up his mind. The men who came looking for her had made sure of that. Anna shifted, wincing as pain shot through her side. The beating had been 3 days ago. Calculated, controlled, just enough to send a message. She'd hidden it well at first, long sleeves, careful movements, smiles that didn't quite reach her eyes. But David had noticed. He always noticed. Mom? He'd asked that morning. Are you okay? Just tired, baby. She'd lied. Now they were here, sitting on cold concrete at 11:30 at night with nowhere to go and a strange man on his way. A man whose name she couldn't even remember. A man who somehow knew hers. Anna pulled out the business card she'd kept in her wallet. Plain, white, just a phone number embossed in black. No name, no company, nothing else. She remembered the day he'd left it. Mid-October. Slow Tuesday shift. He'd sat at the counter, ordered coffee, watched the room with eyes that missed nothing. When he paid, he'd slid the card across with the cash. "If you ever need help," he'd said quietly. Real help. She'd almost thrown it away. Almost asked what kind of help he meant. But something in his expression stopped her. Something that said he understood what it meant to need help that couldn't come from official channels. She'd kept the card. And now, 3 months later, she'd used it. Anna checked her phone. No new messages. She didn't know how far away he was, or how long it would take. Didn't know what would happen when he arrived. She looked down the corridor. Empty. Silent. The building around them settled and creaked. Somewhere above, a door slammed. Music played faintly through thin walls. David's breathing stayed steady against her. Anna closed her eyes, just for a moment. Let herself feel the exhaustion that had been building for weeks. The fear she'd been pushing down since the alley. The anger at the landlord, at the men, at the city that ground people like her into dust and expected gratitude for the privilege. When she opened her eyes, she made a decision. Whatever came next, she wouldn't apologize. Not to the landlord. Not to the men who'd marked her. Not to anyone. She'd asked for help. Real help. Now she'd see what that meant. 3 weeks earlier. Anna wiped down the counter for the 3rd time that hour. Her reflection catching in the polished surface. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back tight. The smile she wore felt painted on, but it worked. Tips were better when you smiled. "Order up," Jimmy called from the kitchen. She grabbed the plates, 2 breakfast specials, extra bacon on one, and carried them to table 6. The morning rush was thinning out. Another hour and she could sit down for 10 minutes. "Maybe. Anything else I can get you?" she asked, setting down the plates. The businessman barely looked up from his phone. "We're good." Anna's smile didn't waver. She'd learned that trick years ago. How to be pleasant without being present. How to serve without being seen. She returned to the counter, checking her phone quickly. 1 text from David's school permission slip for the field trip next month. $20 she didn't have. She'd figure it out. She always did. "You look tired," Maria said, sliding past her with a coffee pot. Maria had worked at the diner for 15 years. She knew everyone's story without asking. "I'm fine," Anna said automatically. Maria refilled cup after cup down the line. "You work too much." "I work exactly as much as I need to," Anna thought. But she just smiled again and cleared table 3. The truth was simpler and harder than tired. She was surviving. That's what she'd been doing since David was born, since his father left before the first ultrasound, since she realized she was alone with a choice to make. Keep going, or give up. She'd chosen to keep going. Some days, like today, she couldn't remember why that had seemed like the better option. Anna glanced at the clock. 2 more hours. Then she'd pick up David from after-school care, take him home, make dinner from whatever was left in the fridge, help with homework, tuck him in, come back for the dinner shift. The bell above the door chimed. A man walked in. Dark suit, perfectly fitted. He moved like someone used to being watched, but his eyes did the watching instead. He sat at the counter, 3 seats from the end. Anna grabbed a menu and a water glass. "Coffee?" she asked. "Please." His voice was quiet, controlled. She poured, noting the way his hands rested on the counter, relaxed, but ready. She'd seen enough men in this city to recognize the type. The ones who didn't need to prove anything because everyone already knew. "Do you need a minute with the menu?" "Just the coffee." Anna nodded and moved away, giving him space. She served 2 more tables, cleared another, rang up a check. When she came back, his cup was half empty. "Refill?" "Thank you." This time when she poured, he spoke again. "You work doubles?" Anna's hand steadied on the pot. It wasn't an unusual question, but the way he asked it was like he already knew the answer. "Most days," she said carefully. He nodded, as if confirming something. Then he pulled out his wallet, left a 50 for a $4 coffee, and slid a plain white card across the counter. "If you ever need help," he said quietly. "Real help." Anna stared at the card. "Just a phone number. Nothing else." "I don't," she started. "You don't have to now." He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "But keep it. Then he was gone. Maria appeared at her elbow. You know who that was? Should I? Maria lowered her voice. That's Mirko Lombardi. He doesn't come to places like this. And when he does, it means something. Anna picked up the card, turned it over. Blank on both sides except for the number. What does it mean? She asked. Maria shook her head. Nothing good, but nothing simple either. Anna slipped the card into her apron pocket and got back to work. She had bills to think about, not mysterious men in expensive suits. That evening, David sat at their tiny kitchen table, pencil moving across his homework with careful concentration. He was 7, but he already understood things he shouldn't have to. Like how to be quiet when Mom was tired. Like how to make cereal for himself if she slept through the alarm. Like how to say everything was fine at school, even when it wasn't. How was your day, baby? Anna asked, stirring pasta on the stove. Good. David didn't look up. We learned about fractions. Yeah? You understand them? Mostly. Anna smiled, real this time. David was smart, scary smart. His teachers said so at every conference. He could do more with the right resources, they'd say. Has he thought about the advanced program? Resources. The word that meant money without saying it. I got a permission slip, David said, pulling it from his backpack. For the Science Museum. Anna took the paper, scanning it quickly. $20, due in 2 weeks. We'll make it work, she said. David nodded, already knowing that phrase. We'll make it work. The mantra of their household. The promise she made constantly, even when she didn't know how to keep it. They ate dinner together, pasta with butter and the last of the parmesan. David talked about his friend Jake, about the substitute teacher who let them have extra recess. Anna listened, responding in the right places, her mind half on the conversation and half on the math she'd been running all day. Rent was due in 5 days. She was short. Again, the landlord, Mr. Patterson, had been understanding the last 2 months. His version of understanding meant reminding her weekly that he was doing her a favor, that single mothers were risky tenants, that he could fill her unit in a day if he wanted to. She'd smile, thank him, promise it wouldn't happen again, and every month, it did. After David went to bed, Anna sat at the table with her phone, calculator, and a stack of bills. No matter how she arranged the numbers, they didn't add up. She could pay rent and skip the electric, or pay electric and ask for another extension on rent. Or she could pick up another shift, work through the night, sleep 3 hours, start again. She chose the last option. She always did. Anna pulled out her phone to text her manager, and the white business card fell out of her wallet. She picked it up, staring at the number in the dim kitchen light. Real help, he'd said. What did that even mean? She put the card back and texted about the extra shift instead. Some help came with prices you couldn't see until it was too late. 2 weeks before the text. The dinner shift ended at 11. Anna counted her tips in the back room, $73. Better than yesterday. She divided it mentally. 40 for rent, 20 for David's field trip, 13 for groceries. That left nothing for the electric bill, but she'd worry about that tomorrow. She hung up her apron, pulled on her jacket, and stepped out into the November cold. The diner sat on the edge of a neighborhood that shifted blocks by block from working class to dangerous. Anna had learned the safe routes home: stick to the main streets, stay under the lights, walk fast but not too fast, never look scared. Tonight, she was too tired to be careful. She cut through the side street, the one that shaved 10 minutes off her walk. The streetlights were sparser here, the buildings older. Metal security gates covered shop windows, graffiti marked the brick walls in layers, one tag over another, years of territorial claims. Anna's footsteps echoed against the pavement. Then she heard the others, behind her, not close, but not far. Multiple sets, heavy boots on concrete. She didn't turn around. That was the rule. Don't acknowledge, don't engage, just keep walking. The footsteps matched her pace. Anna's heart kicked against her ribs. She walked faster, scanning ahead for people, for open businesses, for anywhere with light and witnesses. The street was empty, past midnight now. Even the bodega on the corner had its gate down. Hey! The voice came from behind. Casual, almost friendly. Anna kept walking. Hey, I'm talking to you. Closer now. She could hear them spreading out, flanking her on both sides of the narrow street. 3, maybe 4. Her hand went to her phone in her pocket, but who would she call? The police would take 20 minutes. She'd be gone or worse by then. Don't be rude, another voice said. This one had laughter in it, Enjoying this, Anna's throat tightened. She could see the next intersection ahead. 40 feet, 30. If she could just make it to the main road. A figure stepped out from the alley entrance ahead of her. She stopped. They'd boxed her in. Anna turned slowly. 3 men behind her, 1 in front. Young, mid-20s maybe. Baggy jeans, hoodies, faces half-shadowed. The one in the middle was smiling. "That's better," he said. "We just want to talk." Anna's voice came out steadier than she felt. "I don't have any money." "Who said anything about money?" The man tilted his head, studying her face. "You work at the diner, right? Red awning, corner of 5th? Her stomach dropped. They knew where she worked. This wasn't random. "We've seen you," he continued, taking a step closer. "Walking home. Same route. Same time." Anna's hand tightened around her phone. "What do you want?" "Just wanted to introduce ourselves." He spread his hands like he was being reasonable. "This is our neighborhood. We notice people, especially people who walk alone at night. I'm just trying to get home. We know." Another step. Close enough now that she could smell cigarette smoke on his clothes. "We know a lot about you, Anna. We know you got a kid. Cute kid. 7 years old, right?" The blood drained from her face. "Don't," her voice cracked. "Don't bring my son into this." The man's smile widened. "Relax. We're not animals. We're just talking. Just making sure you understand how things work around here." One of the others laughed. The sound echoed off the brick walls, hollow and cruel. "See, there's a way to stay safe in this city," the leader continued. "You pay attention. You show respect. You remember faces." He leaned in close enough that Anna could see the scar across his left eyebrow, the gold tooth in his smile. "Remember my face, Anna." She couldn't move, couldn't speak. Every muscle in her body screamed to run, but her legs wouldn't respond. "That's good," he said softly. "You're smart. Smart enough to know when to stay quiet." He stepped back, nodding to the others. They melted away from her, back into the shadows of the alley. But the leader paused at the entrance. "See you around," he called. Then they were gone. Anna stood frozen in the middle of the street, her breath coming in short gasps. Her phone was slick with sweat in her palm. She looked around, still alone, still empty, still just her and the dark and the echo of footsteps fading into the distance. She ran, not toward home, toward the main street, toward lights and people and anywhere that wasn't that corner, that alley, those faces. She didn't stop until she reached the 24-hour bodega 3 blocks away. The clerk looked up from his phone as she stumbled through the door. "You okay, miss?" Anna nodded, unable to speak. She pretended to browse the shelves, hands shaking, until her breathing slowed, until the panic subsided enough that she could think. They knew where she worked. They knew about David. They'd followed her, studied her, planned this, and they'd let her go. That was the worst part. Not what they'd done, but what they hadn't done. The restraint, the control, the message in every word. We could have. We chose not to. This time, Anna bought a bottle of water she didn't need and walked the long way home, keeping to the brightest streets. She checked over her shoulder every 30 seconds, memorized every car, every face, every shadow. When she finally reached her apartment building, she locked the door behind her and stood in the dark, listening. David's breathing came steady from his room, safe, asleep, unaware. She slid down the door and sat on the floor, phone in her hand. She should call someone, report it. But report what? They hadn't touched her, hadn't threatened her explicitly. Just talked, just looked, just made sure she knew they were watching. The police would take a statement and do nothing. Anna opened her photos, looked at David's school picture from last month. His smile bright and genuine, missing his 2 front teeth. She couldn't tell him. Couldn't let him know that the walk home from work wasn't safe anymore. That men knew his name, his age, his school probably. She put the phone away and went to check his window locks. Then she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word, every face. "Remember my face," he'd said. She would. She had no choice. That was the point. 1 week before the text. Anna hadn't slept properly in 5 days. Every shift at the diner, she watched the door. Every walk to and from work, she took different routes longer, brighter, more crowded. She kept her phone charged, her keys between her fingers, her eyes moving constantly. David noticed. "Mom, you keep looking at the window," he'd said yesterday morning. "Just checking the weather, baby." But 7-year-olds weren't stupid. He'd started asking questions she couldn't answer. Why do we leave earlier now? Why can't I walk to Jake's house? Why do you keep checking your phone? Because men who knew his name were watching them. Because safety was an illusion she could no longer maintain. Because she was terrified and had nowhere to turn. She said none of this. Instead, she smiled and worked doubles and tried to pretend the alley hadn't happened. The diner was quiet that Thursday night. Late October rain drummed against the windows, keeping most people home. Anna refilled coffee for the regular at the counter, cleared tables that didn't need clearing, kept her hands busy so her mind wouldn't wander. "You can head out early if you want," Jimmy said from the kitchen. "Not worth paying you to stand around." Anna glanced at the clock. 9:30. David was with Mrs. Chen upstairs, probably already asleep. She could use the extra hour at home. "You sure?" "Yeah, go on. Rain's supposed to get worse." Anna grabbed her jacket from the back, said goodnight to Maria, and stepped out into the cold drizzle. The street was slick with reflected neon, the smell of wet asphalt mixing with restaurant exhaust. She pulled her hood up and started walking. She made it 2 blocks before she saw them. 3 figures standing under the awning of a closed electronics store. Same hoodies, same posture, waiting. Anna's heart lurched. She turned down the next street, walking faster. Maybe they hadn't seen her. Maybe it was different people. Maybe footsteps behind her. "Anna." She didn't stop. "Anna, don't be rude. We're just saying hello." She walked faster, scanning for witnesses, for cameras, for anything. The street was residential, here parked cars, darkened storefronts, lights on in apartments above, but no one looking down. "Stop walking." The voice was sharper now. The one from the alley. The leader. Anna stopped. Not because he told her to, but because she saw the 4th figure ahead, blocking her path. Same as before, boxed in. She turned slowly. They were closer this time. The leader's hood was down, rain plastering his hair to his forehead. The scar over his eyebrow was more visible. He wasn't smiling anymore. "You've been avoiding us," he said. "I'm just going home." Different route every night, different times. He took a step closer. "That's not very friendly." Anna's hand found her phone in her pocket. "Please, I haven't done anything to you." "No, you haven't." He looked at the others, then back at her. "But you haven't done what we asked either." "You didn't ask me anything. We told you to remember." His voice went cold. "We told you to show respect." "You think changing your route shows respect?" "I don't understand what you want from me." "An apology." The word hung in the rain between them. Anna stared. "For what?" "For making us come find you again. For wasting our time." He stepped closer, invading her space. "For acting like you're too good to acknowledge us when we're trying to be nice." "I didn't." "You did." His hand shot out and grabbed her arm, the same arm that still had faint bruises from carrying double shifts of plates. He squeezed, his fingers digging into the tender muscle. "You walked past Ricky 2 days ago like he wasn't even there." Anna tried to pull away. His grip tightened. "I didn't see him. I swear. I wasn't." "You saw him." The leader's face was inches from hers now. "You looked right at him and kept walking." "Please," Anna's voice cracked. "I have a son. I can't." "We know about your son." His other hand came up, not touching her but close enough. "We know everything about you, Anna. Where you live, what door, what floor." Tears burned in her eyes. Not from pain, but from the suffocating helplessness of it. These men could do whatever they wanted. Here, now, and no one would stop them. "So here's what's going to happen," the leader said quietly. "You're going to apologize for being disrespectful. And then you're going to understand that when we talk to you, you listen. When we're kind enough to let you know we're watching, you show gratitude. You understand?" Anna's jaw clenched. Every instinct screamed to stay silent, to refuse, to spit in his face. But David was upstairs, asleep, safe only because she did what she had to do. "I understand," she whispered. "Good." He released her arm and stepped back. "But I don't think you do. Not really. I think you need a reminder." The others moved before Anna could react. One grabbed her jacket, spinning her toward the alley entrance. Another shoved her forward. She stumbled, catching herself against the brick wall. The rough surface scraped her palms. "Wait," she started. The first blow caught her in the ribs. Not full force, controlled, precise, enough to knock the air from her lungs and send her to her knees. Anna gasped, arms coming up instinctively. "Not the face," the leader said calmly. We're not animals. Another hit, this time to her back, then her shoulder. Each one calculated, placed where clothing would hide the damage. Where she could still walk, still work, still function, but where she'd feel it, remember it, fear it. Anna curled on the ground, rain soaking through her clothes, mixing with the tears she couldn't hold back. She didn't scream. Some part of her knew that would make it worse, knew that they wanted fear, not resistance. After what felt like hours but was probably 30 seconds, they stopped. The leader crouched beside her, voice almost gentle. You should have just apologized in the alley. Would have been easier. Anna couldn't speak, couldn't move. Pain radiated through her torso with every breath. Next time, he continued, we won't be this nice. Next time we come to your apartment. Your son answers the door. You understand? She nodded, forehead pressed against the wet pavement. Good girl. They left her there. Anna lay in the alley for 5 full minutes before she could stand. Every movement sent fresh agony through her ribs. She pulled herself up using the wall, legs shaking, breath coming in short gasps. She had to get home, had to check on David, had to make sure they hadn't already. She ran, 4 days before the text. Anna called in sick the next day. And the day after that, she couldn't hide the bruises from Maria, couldn't explain the way she flinched at sudden movements, couldn't pretend the pain in her ribs was just fatigue. So she stayed home, told David she had the flu, and watched him leave for school with Mrs. Chen while she pressed ice to her torso and tried to breathe without crying. The 3rd day, Jimmy called. Anna, I need you back. I can't run short forever. I know. I'm sorry. Tomorrow, I promise. You said that yesterday. Tomorrow, she repeated, and hung up before he could argue. She couldn't go back. Not yet. Not when every time she closed her eyes, she saw their faces, felt their hands, heard the leader's voice. Next time, we come to your apartment, but rent was due in 2 days, and she was already short. Anna sat at the kitchen table that afternoon, doing math that wouldn't work no matter how many times she recalculated. Even with the tips she'd saved, even if she picked up extra shifts, even if she skipped the electric bill entirely, she was $70 short. She'd have to ask Mr. Patterson for another extension. The thought made her stomach turn, but she had no choice. She knocked on his door at 4 o'clock, after David left for his friend's house. Mr. Patterson answered in a stained undershirt, the smell of cigarettes and old coffee wafting from the apartment behind him. Anna. His eyes traveled down her face, noting the carefully applied makeup that didn't quite hide the shadow of a bruise on her cheekbone. Rent's due Friday. I know. I'm a little short this month. I was hoping. How short? 70. But I can have it by next Wednesday. I just need $70. He leaned against the doorframe. On top of the 2 months you were late before, Anna's throat tightened. I paid those. Every penny. Eventually. He pulled out a cigarette, lit it, blew smoke toward the ceiling. You know how many people want your unit, Anna? How many applications I get every week? I know. And I appreciate. You appreciate. He laughed, sharp and bitter. You got a kid. Single mom. I've been more than understanding. But understanding doesn't pay my mortgage. I'll have it Wednesday. I promise. Mr. Patterson studied her for a long moment, eyes narrowing. What happened to your face? I fell. Right. He took another drag. You in some kind of trouble? Anna's pulse quickened. No. Just clumsy. Uh-huh. He didn't look convinced, but he didn't push. Wednesday. Not a day later. Or we're done being understanding. Anna nodded and returned to her apartment, hands shaking as she closed the door. That night there was a knock. Anna froze, halfway through helping David with his math homework. It was past 8, too late for Mrs. Chen, too late for deliveries. Stay here, she whispered to David, and moved to the door. She looked through the peephole. Mr. Patterson stood in the hallway, but he wasn't alone. 2 men flanked him. She recognized the one on the left immediately, the scar over his eyebrow, the gold tooth, the leader from the alley. Anna's blood turned to ice. She backed away from the door, heart hammering. David looked up from his homework, confused. Mom? It's okay, baby. Just stay quiet. The knock came again. Harder. Anna, I know you're in there. Open up. She didn't move, didn't breathe. Anna, come on, this is important. Silence. Then she heard Mr. Patterson's voice, lower, talking to the men. She pressed her ear to the door, straining to hear. Doesn't want trouble. She's a good tenant, just behind on rent. We're not here about rent, the leader's voice. calm, almost friendly. We just want to talk to her. Look, I don't want problems in my building. Whatever this is, it's not a problem. Unless you make it one. A pause. Then Mr. Patterson quieter. What do you want me to tell her? Tell her to come apologize. Tomorrow. Corner of 5th and Madison. 8 o'clock. She knows what for. And if she doesn't, then we'll have to come back. And next time, we might not knock. Anna's legs went weak. She slid down the door, pressing her hand over her mouth to keep from making a sound. David watched her, eyes wide with fear he didn't understand, but could feel radiating from her. I'll tell her, Mr. Patterson said. Good man. We appreciate the cooperation. Footsteps retreated down the hallway, but Mr. Patterson remained. She could see his shadow under the door, wavering. Then he knocked again. Softer this time. Anna, I need you to open the door. Right now. She didn't want to. But she knew he wouldn't leave until she did. Anna pulled herself up, checking that David was still at the table, then opened the door just a crack. Mr. Patterson looked pale, shaken. His hands trembled slightly as he stubbed out his cigarette against the wall. You need to listen to me very carefully, he said quietly. Those men, you know who they are? Anna nodded. You know who they work for? She shook her head. People you don't say no to. People who make problems disappear. He glanced down the empty hallway. They want you to meet them tomorrow. Corner of 5th and Madison, 8 o'clock. They said you know why. I'm not going. Yes, you are. His voice hardened. Because if you don't, they'll come back here. And I can't have that. I won't have that. They're the ones causing trouble, not me. Doesn't matter. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You don't understand how this works. Those men, they're connected. They could burn this building down and no one would investigate. They could make me disappear and no one would ask questions. So when they tell me to give you a message, I give you the message. And when they tell you to show up, you show up. I didn't do anything wrong. I don't care what you did or didn't do. His expression was equal parts fear and frustration. I care about my building, my tenants, my life. And right now, you're a risk I can't afford. Anna felt the words like a physical blow. What are you saying? I'm saying you need to fix this. Whatever it is, whoever you pissed off, fix it. Apologize. Make it right. Because I've been good to you, Anna. I've given you breaks on rent, let you slide when others wouldn't, but I can't protect you from people like that. I'm not asking you to protect me. Good, because I won't. He backed toward his own door. Tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Don't make me regret being nice to you. He disappeared into his apartment, lock clicking behind him. Anna stood in the hallway, the weight of it crushing down on her shoulders. She'd run out of places to hide, run out of people who'd help, run out of options that didn't involve bowing to men who'd beaten her in an alley. She closed her door quietly and returned to David, who'd abandoned his homework to stare at her with questions he was too afraid to ask. Everything's okay, she lied, pulling him into a hug that hurt her ribs but steadied her heart. Everything's going to be okay, but she didn't believe it anymore. 2 days before the text, Anna didn't go to the meeting. She went to work instead, showed up for her shift at the diner with her ribs taped and her fear buried deep. She smiled at customers, poured coffee, pretended the world wasn't collapsing around her. Maria watched her with worried eyes but said nothing. Jimmy complained about the sick days but gave her the best tables anyway, and when her shift ended at 11, Anna took the longest route home she could find. She knew what not showing up meant, knew the consequences would come, but some part of her, the part that had kept going after David's father left, that had worked doubles for 7 years, that had built a life from nothing, refused to kneel. If they wanted her broken, they'd have to break her themselves. She just didn't expect it to happen so fast. The eviction notice was taped to her door when she got home that night. Anna stared at it, the words blurring together. Failure to pay rent. Violation of lease terms. 30 days to vacate. 30 days. She ripped the notice down and knocked on Mr. Patterson's door. Once, twice, harder. He opened it halfway, not meeting her eyes. You can't do this, Anna said, holding up the notice. I told you I'd have the money Wednesday. You agreed. Things changed. What things? You didn't show up. His voice was flat, empty. They came by this afternoon, asking about you, asking if you'd gotten their message. I told them you had. They asked if you'd left for the meeting. He finally looked at her. I had to tell them the truth. Anna's stomach dropped. So you're evicting me? I'm protecting my property. I'm 1 week behind on rent. 1 week. That's not grounds for. You bring trouble, Anna. He spoke over her, louder now. I've been watching this building for 20 years. I know trouble when I see it. And those men, they're not the kind of trouble that just goes away. They're the kind that spreads, that infects, that brings cops and questions and problems I don't need. I'm the victim here. I don't care. The words were harsh but honest. I don't care who started what or who's right or wrong. I care that men like that are showing up at my door asking about my tenants. That's not acceptable. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem. He started to close the door, then paused. I've been good to you, given you breaks nobody else would. But you made your choice when you didn't show up to that meeting. Now I'm making mine. The door closed. Anna stood in the hallway, the notice crumpling in her fist. Behind her apartment door, she could hear David's voice, asking Mrs. Chen a question about homework. Normal. Safe. Completely unaware that everything was about to change. She couldn't tell him. Not tonight. She'd figure something out. She always did. She didn't figure it out. 2 days passed in a blur of phone calls that went nowhere. The shelters were full. The transitional housing had waiting lists months long. Her credit wasn't good enough for a new apartment. And even if it was, she couldn't afford first and last month's rent. She called in favors that didn't exist, reached out to people who'd moved on years ago, begged Jimmy for an advance that he couldn't afford to give. And every night, she looked across the dinner table at David and tried to smile like everything was fine. On the second night, Mr. Patterson knocked again. This time, Anna knew before she opened the door. You need to be out tonight, he said. The notice said 30 days. I'm accelerating the timeline. You can't do that. That's illegal. Sue me. He held out his hand. Keys. Now. It's 10 o'clock. My son is asleep. We have nowhere to go. You've had 2 days. 2 days to find housing in this city? With no money? That's impossible. Mr. Patterson's expression didn't change. Behind him, she saw 2 other men from the building residents. Not thugs. Just people he'd recruited to make this harder to fight. Keys, Anna. Don't make this worse than it has to be. How could it possibly be worse? I could call the police. Have you removed for trespassing? Anna's hands shook with rage. You're doing this because you're scared. Because they scared you. So instead of standing up to them, you're throwing out a single mother and her 7-year-old son in the middle of the night. I'm doing this because you didn't listen. His voice rose. I told you to fix it. I told you what would happen. You made your choice. I chose not to apologize to the men who beat me, and I'm choosing not to lose my building over your pride. The words hung between them, ugly and true. Anna turned away, moving mechanically. She woke David gently, whispered that they needed to go stay somewhere else for the night. He didn't ask questions, just got dressed in sleepy confusion. She packed 2 duffel bags, clothes, toiletries, David's school books, the photo of them from his 6th birthday. Everything else would have to stay. 20 minutes later, they stood in the hallway with their bags. Mr. Patterson watched from his doorway, arms crossed. The other residents had already disappeared, unwilling to witness what they'd helped enable. I was a good tenant, Anna said quietly. I paid my rent. I kept quiet. I never caused problems. And when I needed help, you chose them over me. I chose survival, Mr. Patterson replied. Same as you've been doing for 7 years. Don't act like you wouldn't do the same. Maybe he was right. Maybe in his position, she would have made the same calculation. But that didn't make it hurt less. Anna took David's hand and walked toward the stairs. Where are we going? David asked, voice small in the empty stairwell. I don't know yet, baby. Are we coming back? Anna's throat closed. She couldn't answer. They emerged onto the street, the November cold biting through their jackets. 11:30 at night. Nowhere to go. Nowhere safe. Anna found a storage corridor in the building next door, metal units, concrete floor, harsh fluorescent lights. She set down their bags and pulled David close, letting him curl against her shoulder. He fell asleep quickly, exhausted by confusion and late hour. Anna sat in the cold and the silence and the crushing weight of complete helplessness. Then she pulled out her phone. She scrolled through her contacts, looking for anyone who might help. Anyone who might answer at midnight. Anyone who still owed her something. The white business card fell out of her wallet. Anna stared at it. If you ever need help. Real help. She'd run out of options. Run out of places. Run out of people who gave a damn. Her fingers typed before her mind could stop them. They threw us out. She pressed send. And waited. The phone buzzed in Mirko Lombardi's hand as he stood on the corner of 8th and Garrison, watching a deal go wrong 3 blocks away. He didn't need to be here. He had people for this, people who handled street-level disputes, who collected debts, who enforced the rules that kept his network running smoothly. But Mirko had learned early that distance bred carelessness, that the moment you stopped watching, things fell apart. So he watched. The text pulled his attention from the argument unfolding in the parking lot across the street. Unknown number. 4 words. They threw us out. Mirko frowned, scrolling back through recent messages. No context, no previous conversation. Wrong number, probably. He started to put the phone away. Then something stopped him. The phrasing. Not, we got evicted or lost our place. They threw us out. Active. Immediate. Someone else made this happen. He opened his contacts, cross-referenced the number against his mental database of names and faces. Nothing matched. But the area code was local. Mirko's instincts, honed over 15 years of reading people and situations, whispered that this wasn't random. He pulled up the message thread again, studying those 4 words. Late-night text to a stranger. Desperation in the brevity. No explanation because there was no time, or because the sender assumed he'd already know. Someone thought they were texting someone else, someone who needed help. The deal across the street was resolving itself, the debtor's hands up, the collector backing off. Mirko's phone buzzed again with a report from one of his lieutenants. Everything handled, everything under control. He looked at the message one more time. Then he typed, I'm on my way. Mirko sat in his car for 30 seconds after sending the reply, waiting to see if the number would correct itself. If whoever sent it would realize their mistake and apologize, or panic, or simply stop responding. Instead, wait, I don't even know who you are. I think I texted the wrong, so it was a wrong number. But the person on the other end was still in crisis, still sitting somewhere with nowhere to go. Mirko's logical mind said to let it go, to delete the thread and get back to work. People made mistakes, sent texts to wrong numbers. That wasn't his problem, but he typed anyway. I know who you are, Anna. The moment he sent it, he pulled up his contact management system, the network of information he'd built carefully over years. Restaurant workers, service industry, single mothers in the neighborhood. He filtered by first name. 3 Annas came up. 2 were current. 1 worked at a diner on 5th Street. Anna Jones, late 20s. 1 child. Waitress, double shifts, always polite, always struggling. He'd been to that diner once, months ago. Sat at the counter, watched her work with the kind of exhausted efficiency that came from years of survival. He'd left his card because something in her reminded him of his own mother. Same tired eyes, same determined smile, same refusal to ask for help even when drowning. Most people threw the card away. Anna had kept it. Mirko pulled up the building records, cross-referenced with recent activity reports. Her landlord was Patterson, weak man, easily pressured, and there'd been reports of street-level crew activity near her address. The Kozlov crew. Bottom feeders who thought intimidation made them powerful. The pieces assembled quickly. Anna had been targeted. Patterson had been scared. And now she was sitting somewhere cold with her son, texting a stranger because she had no one else. Mirko started the car. He made 2 calls on the drive. The first was to Luca, his longest-serving associate. Run everything you have on Anna Jones, apartment 3C, building on 7th. I want to know who's been pressuring her, who gave the orders, and how far up it goes. Time frame? 20 minutes. On it. The second call was to the Kozlov crew's handler. Mirko kept his voice calm, almost pleasant. This is Lombardi. I need to know if your people have been operating near 7th Street. Specifically, targeting civilians. A pause. We have some activity there. Why? Are they authorized? They're collecting debts, making rounds. Standard operations. On a waitress? Another pause. Longer. I'd have to check. Check now. Mirko's tone didn't change, but the silence that followed made his meaning clear. And tell whoever's running that crew that I need names. Tonight. Understood. Mirko ended the call as he turned onto Anna's street. The address she'd sent led him to a storage facility corridor, industrial, cold, lit by failing fluorescents. Not an apartment, not even a shelter. A hallway where people went when they'd run out of places. He parked and got out, adjusting his jacket. The night was cold, his breath visible in the air. He walked slowly, footsteps echoing off concrete, until he saw them. Anna sat with her back against a storage unit. A boy curled against her shoulder. 2 duffel bags beside them. Her face was turned down, one arm wrapped protectively around the child, the other holding her phone. She looked up as he approached. Even in the harsh light, he could see the bruises. Faded, but there. One on her cheekbone. The way she held her ribs suggested more underneath. Mirko stopped 6 feet away, hands visible, posture non-threatening. He'd learned long ago that power wasn't about intimidation, it was about control. And right now, this woman needed to feel safe, not scared. Anna, she nodded, eyes wary. I'm Mirko. From the diner. Recognition flickered across her face. You left the card. I did. She looked down at David, still asleep, then back at Mirko. I didn't mean to text you. I don't even know what I thought. It's okay. No, it's not. Her voice cracked. I don't know you. I don't know why you're here, or what you want, or I don't want anything. Mirko's voice was steady, calm. You asked for help. I'm here to help. People don't just help. Not for free. You're right. They don't. He took 1 step closer, letting her see his face clearly. But I'm not most people. And you're not most situations. Anna's jaw tightened. What does that mean? It means someone hurt you. Someone scared you. And someone threw you out because of it. He paused, letting the words settle. I want to know who. Why? Because this is my city. And what happened to you, that's not how things work here. Not in my city. She stared at him, searching his face for deception, for hidden motives, for the catch that always came with offers like this. Mirko waited. He'd learned patience decades ago. Learned that the most important moments happened in silence. Finally, Anna spoke. The men who did this, you can't just... Who made you apologize? The question cut through everything else. Direct, unflinching, the kind of question that demanded truth. Anna's eyes filled with tears she'd been holding back for days, and then she told him everything. Anna's voice shook as she told him about the alley. About the men who'd followed her, studied her face, whispered her son's name in the dark. About the beating behind the diner, controlled, precise, designed to leave marks where no one would see. Mirko listened without interrupting. His expression didn't change, but something in his eyes darkened with each detail. When she described the landlord's visit, the ultimatum, the eviction, his jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. They wanted me to apologize, Anna finished, voice barely above a whisper. To meet them at 5th and Madison. To bow down and admit I'd been disrespectful. She looked down at David, still sleeping against her. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. Mirko was quiet for a long moment. Then he crouched down, bringing himself to her eye level. The movement was careful, non-threatening, the kind of gesture that spoke of someone who understood fear intimately. You were right not to go, he said quietly. Anna laughed, bitter and broken. Look where that got me. It got you here, still standing, still protecting your son. His voice carried a weight she couldn't name. That takes more strength than most people have. I don't feel strong. I feel terrified. Good. Fear keeps you alive. He tilted his head slightly, studying her face. But you're not just afraid. You're angry. I can see it. Anna met his eyes. He was right. Beneath the exhaustion and the terror, rage burned like a pilot light she couldn't extinguish. Rage at the men who'd targeted her. At the landlord who'd abandoned her. At a city that ground people into dust and called it survival. What good is anger? She asked. I'm sitting in a hallway with nowhere to go. Anger doesn't change that. No, but consequences do. The word hung between them, loaded with implications Anna wasn't sure she wanted to understand. What are you saying? I'm saying that what happened to you, that's not going to happen again. Mirko stood, pulling out his phone. And the people who did this are going to understand why. I don't want revenge. I just want to be safe. Those aren't different things. He typed something quickly, then looked back at her. The men who hurt you, they work for someone. And that someone answers to people who answer to me. This happened because no one told them to stop. Because they thought you were nobody. I am nobody. Not anymore. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression hardening. The crew that's been targeting you, they're Kozlov's people, street-level collectors who've been freelancing, thinking they can build reputation by terrorizing civilians. Anna's stomach dropped. Kozlov. I've heard that name. Everyone has. He runs the South Side, thinks violence equals power. Mirko's voice was cold now, clinical. But he operates on my permission. And this... He gestured at Anna, at David, at the storage corridor that had become their refuge. This wasn't authorized. So what happens now? Now I make a phone call. And you and David get somewhere warm. I told you, I don't have anywhere. I have a property. 3 blocks from here. Small building, quiet, secure. He held up a hand before she could protest. It's empty. Has been for months. You'll stay there until you figure out your next move. No rent. No obligations. Anna's instincts screamed. Nothing was free. Nobody gave without expecting something in return. Why would you do that? Because I can. He said it simply, as if the answer was obvious. Because you asked for help and I'm giving it. No strings. No debt. Just space. I don't believe you. Good. That means you're smart. A ghost of something that might have been respect crossed his face. But believe this. What happened to you ends tonight. The men who hurt you, the landlord who threw you out, anyone who thinks you're an easy target, they're going to learn otherwise, and you're going to sleep somewhere safe with your son. Everything else, we figure out tomorrow. Anna looked down at David, his small face peaceful in sleep, completely unaware that his mother was accepting help from a man whose reputation was built on fear, a man who'd just offered them sanctuary with one hand while promising consequences with the other. She thought about the alternative, about shelters and waiting lists and David's confused questions, about the men who knew where she worked, who'd beaten her once and promised worse next time, about the fact that she'd already sent the text, already summoned him, already made her choice the moment her fingers had pressed send. Okay, Anna whispered. Mirko nodded once, then made his call. 20 minutes later, Anna sat in the passenger seat of Mirko's car, sleek, dark, expensive in a way that made her hyper-aware of her worn jacket and scuffed sneakers. David was buckled in the back, still half asleep, clutching his backpack like a lifeline. They drove in silence through streets Anna recognized but had never seen from this angle. From behind tinted windows, from the passenger seat of a car that cost more than she'd earn in 5 years. Mirko's phone rang twice. Both times he answered with single words, yes, handled, tomorrow, then ended the call. He didn't explain, didn't offer commentary, just drove with the calm precision of someone who'd made this trip 1,000 times. They pulled up to a narrow building tucked between a laundromat and a closed bakery. Brick facade, 4 stories, unremarkable, except for the fact that every window was dark. This is it, Mirko said, parking in front. Anna looked up at the building. You said it's empty? For now. He got out, came around to open her door. The gesture felt strangely formal given the circumstances. Top floor, 2 bedrooms, bathroom, small kitchen. Furniture's basic but functional. Heat works, water's on. He led them inside and up 3 flights of stairs. The hallway was clean, recently painted, nothing like the deteriorating building she'd been evicted from. At the end of the hall, he unlocked a door and stepped aside. Anna walked in slowly, David close behind her. The apartment was exactly as described. Simple, clean, sparse. A couch in the living room. A kitchen table with 2 chairs. Through an open door, she could see a bed with plain sheets. It looked like a place no one lived. But it also looked safe. Locks are new, Mirko said, demonstrating the deadbolt and chain. Windows lock from inside. Building entrance requires a key, I'll leave you one. No one comes up here without permission. Anna turned to face him. And tomorrow? Tomorrow you get David to school. You rest. You let your ribs heal. His expression was unreadable. And I handle the rest. The rest being consequences. There was that word again. Anna wanted to ask what that meant. Wanted to know what happened to men who crossed someone like Mirko Lombardi. But some part of her, the part that had survived 7 years alone, that had worked doubles until her feet bled, that had refused to apologize even when beaten, that part already knew, and didn't want the details. Thank you, she said instead. Mirko nodded once, handed her 2 keys, and moved toward the door. He paused at the threshold. Anna, yes? What happened to you? It's not your fault. You didn't bring this on yourself. You understand that? She didn't. Not really. But she nodded anyway. He studied her face for another moment, then left. The door closed. The locks clicked. And Anna stood in the middle of a stranger's apartment with her sleeping son and wondered what she'd just set in motion. Mirko made 3 calls from his car before he drove away from the building. The first was to Luca. I need everything on the Kozlov cruise movements near 7th Street. Specifically, 3 to 4 men targeting a civilian. I want names, addresses, and who gave them permission to operate outside their territory. Permission? Luca's voice carried confusion. You think someone authorized this? No. I think someone looked the other way. Find out who. The second call was to Kozlov directly. We need to meet. Tonight. It's almost 1 a.m, Lombardi. I know what time it is. Angelo's. 1 hour. What's this about? Your people have been making moves without clearance. We're going to discuss boundaries. Silence on the other end. Then, I'll be there. The third call was to Patterson, the landlord. Mirko's voice was calm, almost pleasant. Mr. Patterson. This is Mirko Lombardi. I believe some of my associates visited your building recently. A sharp intake of breath. Ah, yes. I told them everything they wanted to know. I cooperated. I know you did. That's why we're having this conversation instead of a different one. Mirko, let that sink in. The woman you evicted tonight. Anna Jones. Tell me why. She was behind on rent. She was bringing trouble. I had to protect my investment. Trouble? You mean the men who came asking about her? Yes, they said they implied. I know what they implied. And I know you chose to believe them instead of protecting your tenant. Mirko's tone didn't change, but the temperature in the car seemed to drop. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow morning, you're going to call Anna. You're going to apologize. You're going to offer her apartment back, rent-free for 3 months, with a guarantee that no one will bother her again. I can't just... Yes, you can. And you will. Because the alternative is that I make some calls of my own. To the building inspector. To the fire marshal. To people who'll be very interested in the violations I'm certain they'll find. Patterson's breathing was audible over the line. She won't come back. Not after what I did. That's her choice. But you'll make the offer. Genuinely. And you'll mean the apology. Mirko paused. And if those men ever come near your building again, you'll call me immediately. Do you understand? Yes. Good. We won't need to speak again. Mirko ended the call and drove toward Angelo's, a restaurant that served as neutral ground for conversations that couldn't happen in public. He arrived first, took a booth in the back, ordered coffee he wouldn't drink. Kozlov arrived 15 minutes later. Tall, broad-shouldered, expensive suit that didn't quite hide the street underneath. He slid into the booth across from Mirko, with the casual confidence of someone who thought he was an equal. He wasn't. Lombardi, it's been a while. It has. Mirko's expression was neutral. Let's not waste time. Your crew has been operating on 7th Street, targeting civilians, specifically, a waitress named Anna Jones. Kozlov's eyes narrowed. You called me out here at 1 a.m. over some waitress. I called you here because your people are moving without discipline, without authorization, and that creates problems. My people are doing their jobs. Collections, enforcement, territory management. On whose authority? Mine. And who gave you authority to target civilians outside your jurisdiction? Kozlov leaned back, irritation crossing his face. With all due respect, Lombardi, I don't need permission for street-level operations. That's what you pay me for, to keep the South Side in line. The South Side. Not 7th Street. Not civilians who have nothing to do with our business. She was marked because she showed disrespect. My guys were building reputation, establishing boundaries. That's basic street operation. Building reputation. Mirko's voice went flat. By beating a single mother who works double shifts to feed her kid. By terrorizing her until she couldn't walk home alone. By forcing her landlord to evict her in the middle of the night. I didn't know about the eviction, but you knew about the rest. Kozlov shifted slightly. Look, maybe they got overzealous. But that's the job. You make examples. You show people what happens when they don't fall in line. She wasn't in line to fall out of. She was walking home from work. She disrespected them. She existed. Mirko leaned forward, voice dropping to something cold and precise. That's all she did. She existed in the wrong place at the wrong time, and your people decided she was an opportunity. Decided her fear was worth more than her safety. Decided that because she had no protection, she was fair game. Kozlov's jaw tightened. What do you want me to do? Apologize to every person my crew leans on? I want you to pull your people back. Immediately. I want the men who targeted Anna Jones reassigned to something that doesn't involve civilians. And I want it understood clearly, explicitly, without question, that what happened to her doesn't happen again. And if I say no, then we have a different conversation. One about boundaries and consequences, and whether the South Side needs new management. The threat hung between them, unspoken but unmistakable. Kozlov stared at Mirko for a long moment, reading the seriousness in his expression. Finally he nodded. Fine. I'll pull them back, reassign them. But this sets a precedent, Lombardi. If we can't lean on civilians, if we can't use fear as a tool, then we're working with one hand tied. No. You're working with discipline, with structure, with the understanding that power isn't about who you can hurt, it's about who you choose not to. Kozlov stood, buttoning his jacket. Your people won't like this. They'll see it as weakness. Let them. I'd rather be weak and right than strong and wrong. After Kozlov left, Mirko sat alone in the booth, the restaurant empty except for the owner cleaning tables in the front. His phone buzzed. Luca. Got the names. 3 men. Street-level crew, no significant connections. They've been freelancing, trying to build reputation outside normal channels. Kozlov probably didn't know the extent. Addresses? Sent them to you. Good. Make sure they understand the new boundaries. No contact with Anna Jones. No operations near her workplace or residence. No retaliation. And if they push back, they won't. Mirko's voice carried the weight of certainty. But if they do, then we escalate. Quietly, he ended the call and finished his coffee. Cold now, but still bitter enough to focus his thoughts. Consequences didn't always mean violence. Sometimes they meant phone calls and boundary enforcement. Sometimes they meant making it clear that certain lines couldn't be crossed without losing everything. But always, they meant follow-through. Once you drew a line, you defended it. No exceptions. No compromise. Anna Jones had asked for help, and Mirko Lombardi had answered. Now everyone else would learn what that meant. Anna woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then the previous night crashed back the eviction, the text, Mirko's car. This apartment. She sat up carefully, ribs protesting the movement, and looked around the small bedroom. David was still asleep in the other room, sprawled across the couch where he'd finally collapsed around 2 a.m, safe, warm, unharmed. Anna got up slowly, moving to the window. 3 stories down. The street was already busy, people heading to work, shops opening, life continuing as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. She could feel it in the stillness of this apartment, in the absence of fear that had become so constant she'd forgotten what its absence felt like. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. How did you sleep? Anna stared at the message. Mirko. Checking in as if this were normal. As if placing strangers in empty apartments and dismantling their problems overnight was just another Tuesday. Fine, she typed back. Thank you. Good. Stay there today. Rest. I'll be in touch this afternoon. She wanted to ask what that meant. Wanted to know what he'd done after dropping them off. But she was afraid of the answers. Instead, she made breakfast from the groceries she found in the kitchen. Eggs, bread, milk, coffee. All fresh, all waiting, as if he'd known exactly when they'd arrive. David woke around 8, confused and quiet. Anna explained as much as she could without explaining anything real. They were staying with a friend, just for a little while, until things settled down. He accepted this the way children accept most things from adults they trust, with questions he didn't quite ask, and worries he didn't quite voice. She got him ready for school, packed his lunch, walked him to the bus stop 2 blocks away, watched him climb on with his backpack and his careful 8-year-old dignity, watched the bus pull away into traffic, taking him somewhere normal while her own world remained suspended in uncertainty. Back at the apartment, Anna tried to rest like Mirko had suggested, but her mind wouldn't settle. She cleaned the already clean kitchen, organized the sparse closet, checked the locks 3 times. Finally, she sat on the couch and let herself feel the exhaustion she'd been running from for weeks. Her phone rang at 2. Anna, it's Mirko. Hi. She didn't know what else to say. I need to see you. Can you meet me downstairs in 10 minutes? Her stomach tightened. Is something wrong? No. Just need to talk. He was waiting in front of the building when she came down, leaning against his car in the autumn sunlight. He looked different in daylight, less shadowed, less dangerous, though the sharp intelligence in his eyes remained. Walk with me, he said. They walked in silence for half a block before Mirko spoke. The men who hurt you, they've been dealt with. They won't come near you again. Ever. Anna's breath caught. What does that mean? It means they've been reassigned. Far from here. With explicit instructions about boundaries and consequences. He glanced at her. They're scared now. The way you were scared. They understand what that feels like. Did you... She couldn't finish the question. No blood. No violence. Just very clear conversations about how things work in this city. Mirko stopped walking, turning to face her. Anna, I want you to understand something. What happened to you wasn't random. Those men chose you because they thought you had no protection. No one who'd care. No one who'd stop them. I didn't. You do now. His voice was firm. Not because you owe me. Not because I own you. But because I'm choosing to care. That's all. No strings. No debt. Anna's eyes filled with tears she'd been holding back since the alley. I don't understand why. Because someone should have cared before it got this far. Because your landlord should have protected you instead of protecting himself. Because those men should have never thought you were fair game. He paused. Because you reminded me of my mother, and no one helped her either. The admission hung between them, raw and honest. What happened to her? Anna asked quietly. She survived, barely. Worked herself to death trying to keep me fed and clothed. Died when I was 15. His expression was distant, remembering. I spent the next 10 years making sure I'd never be powerless again, that I'd never watch someone struggle without being able to help. So you became this. I became what I needed to be. He met her eyes. I'm not a good man, Anna. I've done things that would make you walk away if you knew. But I follow rules. And one of my rules is that civilians don't get hurt. Not in my city. Not when I can stop it. Anna wiped her eyes. What happens now? Now you decide. Your landlord called this morning. Offered your apartment back, rent-free for 3 months, with a guarantee of safety. I didn't tell him to do that. He chose to on his own after we talked. You mean after you threatened him? After I explained consequences. Yes. A slight smile. But the offer is real. You can go back if you want. Or you can stay here. Or you can find somewhere else entirely. Your choice. And you? I walk away. You won't hear from me unless you reach out first. No check-ins. No control. No shadow over your life. He pulled out a different card from his wallet, this one with an actual name and number. But if you ever need help again, real help, you call that number. Anytime. Day or night, no questions asked. Anna took the card, turning it over in her hands. Why would you do all this and just walk away? Because protection isn't possession. Because you didn't ask to be saved, you asked for space to save yourself. Mirko's voice was gentle. I gave you that space. What you do with it is your decision. They walked back to the building in silence. At the entrance, Mirko stopped. One more thing. The men who hurt you, they're going to hear what happened. That you're protected. That touching you means answering to me. That reputation will follow you. It might make some people nervous. Might make others respect you. But it will keep you safe. I didn't ask for that. I know. But you have it anyway. He opened the door for her. Take care of yourself, Anna. Take care of David. And remember, you were strong enough to refuse to apologize. Don't forget that strength just because things got easier. Anna watched him walk back to his car. Watched him drive away without looking back. Then she went upstairs, locked the door, and sat on the couch in the quiet apartment. Her phone buzzed. A text from Patterson, formally apologizing, offering the apartment back with the terms Mirko had mentioned. Another text from Jimmy at the diner, asking when she'd return to work. Another from David's school about the field trip permission slip approved, payment received. She hadn't paid it. Mirko must have. Anna set the phone down and closed her eyes. She'd survived. She'd refused to break. And somehow, impossibly, help had come. Not perfect help, not clean help, but real help. The kind that gave her space to breathe, to heal, to decide what came next. And for the first time in weeks, Anna felt something she'd almost forgotten. Hope. Thanks for staying with this story right till the final moment. You're the reason these stories come alive. If you're ready for another powerful journey, just tap the next video on your screen. And before you go, leave a quick comment and rate this story from 1 to 10. I'm excited to see your thoughts and connect with you down there.
Все равно, сути дела не меняет, зарплата плюс-минус везде там, больше, чуть меньше. И, наверное, это все, вот эта общая ситуация, наверное, у многих привела, во-первых, сфера развлечений, да, всякие там кредиты и так далее, настолько загоняют каждого в задницу человека. И об этом на самом деле никто так-то не говорит. Какое количество сейчас, допустим, даже в те же сложные времена такие, когда сейчас идет там специальная военная операция, да, где люди вообще умирают, в принципе, за какую-то сумму денег. Ну, то есть, какая мотивация, то есть, у мужика идти, типа, на войну, воевать и, ну, как бы заработать денег? Потому что он вот в обычной жизни не понимает, типа, как реализовать себя. Ну, он понимает, что он может пойти работать на какую-то работу, где зарплаты его все равно не будет хватать. Как бы тут тоже двойственная сторона. Хорошо, когда она есть, плохо, когда ее нету. Да, вот это маленькая даже зарплаты. Но морально-то ты все равно подавлен. Ты понимаешь, да, я там пойду туда, но как бы смысла мне этого не принесет большого. Да, у меня там станет, если я вообще не работаю и буду работать за 50 тысяч, хорошо, что они у меня есть, я смогу там покушать себе купить, но это же дизмораль. Когда ты заходишь в интернет и видишь, как люди там в Дубае летают, покупают себе огромное количество автомобилей какие-то, ну, много всего такого, что ты за эту зарплату себе никогда в жизни позволить не сможешь. И как человеку оставаться морально типа сильным? Что ему нужно делать? Ну, наверное, во-первых, это, наверное, все от семьи исходит, да? То есть, какая семья у тебя, как она построена. Если ты один живешь, это сложно, да, ты будешь сам себя, но у тебя, опять-таки, возможно, ну, родители, если есть, которые друзья поддержат тебя в какой-то момент, хотя бы просто отвлекут тебя от этих мыслей. А если у тебя, к примеру, там, семья, жена, к примеру, да, есть дети, то тут, наверное, поддержка только от них исходит какая-то. Вот. Чтобы не упиваться в своих мыслях о том, что какая нынче сложная жизнь. И, наверное, других-то вариантов, в принципе-то, и нету. Какие вот еще варианты, в принципе, изменить, поменять свою жизнь настолько, чтобы она была, ну, казалась тебе удачной, да, реализованным себя в жизни, в чем-то. В чем, вот как проявляется на самом деле у нас реализованность? Наверное, у 90% случаев это финансовое благополучие, финансовая независимость. Это, наверное, одно из таких ключевых моментов, когда человек, наверное, считает себя реализованным, да, в этой жизни. То есть, как добиться этого? То есть, с учетом того, что даже возьмем нашу страну, да, сколько миллионов людей здесь живет, как каждому добиться этого результата? Непонятно. И с каждым годом просто ситуация становится все хуже и хуже. Все дорожает, люди зарабатывают либо столько же. Ну, даже если они зарабатывают столько же, на самом деле этого все уже недостаточно. К чему это все приведет на самом деле? В оконцове, наверное, мир погрязнет в большую депрессию в какую-то. Какие-то войны, возможно, или еще что-то еще больше глобальных таких вещей, которые не приведут ни к чему хорошему на самом деле. Поддержка каждого человека именно для того, чтобы он держался, наверное, морально, заключается в том, что, ну, наверное, дом, в который ты приходишь, должен быть крепостью твоей. Да? Что это единственное должно быть место, где ты будешь чувствовать себя под защитой. Для этого было придумано, наверное, своя пещера изначально, потом свои какие-то чумы, палатки различные, да, потом все это превратилось. На данный момент это у нас дома, квартиры, в которые мы приходим и должны ощущать себя в безопасности. Чтобы можно быть немного морально расслабленным с учетом того, что ты выходишь каждый день на работу, на улицу, и все равно давление вот это вот, оно все равно присутствует. Когда ты заходишь в магазин, видишь цены эти, да, и так далее. Не можешь себе что-то там приобрести, позволить на ежедневной основе, это откладывает большой, наверное, отпечаток. Не, наверное, а точно. И поэтому, когда возвращаясь домой, ты чувствуешь, вот хотя бы есть типа уголок того места, куда ты можешь прийти. Уголок на самом деле человеку много тоже не надо. Можно хотеть большего, но на самом деле человеку одному много не надо. Да? Ему нужно спальное место, спокойное место, где можно подумать. Ну, это когда ты один, к примеру, да? Когда у тебя есть семья, к примеру, ты приходишь домой, опять-таки, и тут хотя бы, да, поговорить о каких-то вещах. Просто об отрешенных вещах, наверное. И, возможно, при этих же условиях у тебя и появляется какая-то дополнительная мотивация для реализации себя. А когда у тебя нету ничего, вот это уже становится проблемой. И это у многих на самом деле. Что значит не иметь ничего? Тут, наверное, самое главное, дизмораль у человека еще возникает при том, что это уже, наверное, где-то в глубине души даже она возникает при даже хорошей финансовой подушке такой, которая у тебя есть, хороших финансовых деньгах, да, то есть, но нету вот внутреннего ощущения, к примеру, дружбы, семьи, любви и так далее. Это уже отдельно на самом деле разговор, потому что мы, вот, к примеру, можем взять, как сейчас вот Новстрой, если кто-то смотрит, насколько тяжело обладать такими финансами и не иметь, по сути, ничего. Ни друзей, ничего не иметь. Так главное это получается для бедных главное деньги, для богатых главное какое-то внутреннее ощущение нужности, не из-за денег. Вот такое вот. И это борьба какая-то такая и вот эти два слоя общества, богатые и бедные, они друг друга не понимают. На самом деле из-за этого, возможно. Потому что богатый человек, он уже не смотрит на деньги, он не считает эти деньги. Ему важно внутреннее вот это вот ощущение того, что он нужен без них даже. Это как Тони Старку сказали: а кто ты без костюма? На вот это я филантроп, тудым-сюдым, он сказал, да? Так и человеку, у которого много денег, ты задашь вопрос: а кто ты без денег? Ну, что ты представляешь себя без денег? Вот, и это, наверное, возможно, таких людей богатых, как вот, например, там, Новстрой, задав ему этот вопрос: а кто ты без денег? Он на него ответить-то и не сможет. Обратная сторона людей бедных, да, вот если мы посмотрим, человеку